Hello and welcome everybody to this XTB live news video. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB, and in this video we're going to be talking about the main events happening in the markets this morning in this last session of the week, Friday the 26th of March 2021, what we can expect from the US session, what to keep an eye on the economic calendar, and some major moves on the markets when we go and take a look at the charts with some key levels to keep an eye on. Let's start with a recap of this past week, let's say, and the past few days of sessions. So it's been a mixed week for indices and other commodities, but then we saw some pressure on oil prices just a few days ago when there was this event in the Suez Canal with a container ship blocking the Suez Canal both ways, which obviously led to a backup of ships that needed to pass by, and in fact, a lot of the world's supply and, in fact, supply of oil passes through the Suez Canal. So there is this concern of a lack of supply in the short term, or a deficit in supply in the short term because of this inconvenience that has happened in the Suez Canal. We saw that reflected a little bit in the prices of oil, along with the inventory reports that we received this week. Yesterday, U.S. indices managed to recover from the losses and finish the session higher, with the S&P gaining 0.52%, while the Dow Jones added 0.62%. The indices are trying to recover from the pullbacks that we saw also at the beginning. Positive tones were also seen in Asia during the Asian session, where the Nikkei gained 1.5%, while the Kospi gained 1.1%. The European Commission President von der Leyen says that companies manufacturing vaccines need to honor contracts with the EU before exporting vaccines to other countries. This is also adding tensions between the EU and some other countries when it comes to the vaccine, because the EU, actually mainland EU, in particular France and Germany, have been suffering more than other countries, even including some that you might expect, like Italy, for example, is actually doing better than them. The UK obviously is doing an excellent effort at vaccination, while the mainland Europe countries are actually suffering a little bit. So we saw the comments from the European Commission President. Bitcoin still remains around $53,000, and it seemed like after crossing that level, it had a little bit of trouble going back below it consistently. And oil recovered part of the losses, as I mentioned. When it comes to today, we saw European markets open higher, and the main event of the day is still the Suez Canal issue that is affecting global trade, but also, of course, the pandemic news that we keep following, along with any sort of political news that we tend to follow. So we saw a Q4 GDP report from Spain this morning, the IFO index at 9 a.m. from Germany, and at 12:30 GMT we had the US data pack for February, which included personal spending, personal income, and PCE inflation. These are very important because they give you an idea of the health of the economy when it comes to the consumer sectors. And so, of course, in the end, the recovery is then reflected in the end users, consumers. And also we had the 2 p.m. University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment for March final. So obviously it's not the first release, it's the final. And it is quite important, but not as important as the original. Besides that, let's go take a look at at some charts. So let's start with the DAX, as always, the DE30 on the platform. As I mentioned, as you can see, significant move higher today on the DAX from yesterday as well. So between yesterday and today is the 26th, as I said, this is the 25th. You can see up 2%, almost even over 2%, breaking through this consolidation range and this previous area that acted as a resistance. And you can see that after it kind of settled right above it, testing this other area, which also acted as a resistance. And if you see, we're very close to the all-time high as well on the DAX. So it's really close to the all-time high. Will it be able to reach it before the end of the week? It remains to be seen, but some positive news and some optimism in the markets could definitely help. Otherwise, we can see some previous resistance areas acting as a potential support. The UK index, UK 100, similar situation to the DAX, again, rebounding from this level we spoke about in the past, as you can see. It acted as a support, and then it failed to break below it around 6,600, 6,592. And then we saw this upward move also on the UK index, up 1.3% and approaching this area that was also tested in the past. If we draw a line, you can see, as you can see, several areas where this has been tested. The US indices, let's take a look at the US 500. So similar situation to the DAX, but we did see a little bit of a pullback at the end there yesterday and during the session, the beginning of the future session. So you see a small pullback of 0.2%, and currently testing these two moving averages. So the blue line and the yellow line after reaching a low of about 3,840. And you can see that is actually also quite close to its all-time high, 3,982. So when we go and take a look at the Nasdaq, so which is the US 100, you can see situation is slightly different. In fact, similar upward move, but then a much larger pullback, obviously 12,748. And something I try to mention every time we look at the Nasdaq is it may look similar to the US 500, but if we zoom out, especially let's take it on the daily and shrink it a little bit, you can see that the Nasdaq is actually here, and the all-time high is about 1,000, actually even more now, 1,200 or 1,175 points or 1,150 points from where we are right now. While if we take a look at the US 500, you'll see that it's actually about 80 points from the all-time high, 70 points, 80 points. So it's much closer, even though we've had similar moves in the short term. You can see that the Nasdaq is actually quite far behind because tech stocks were some of the ones that suffered the most. Now, if we move to commodities, as always, let's take a look at gold. Gold still hovering in this lateral trading range as indices pull higher. The yield pressure that was being felt by gold and precious metals isn't there as much anymore. So we are seeing it rebound from this lower limit. But you can see that it kind of is heading lower, let's say, in the short term. But this area also has held in the past many times, so it does remain to be seen. If it does break through it, we saw what happened last time. So last time it broke through this area, it managed to reach about $1,700, testing it and rebounding, and even before that we saw it at 1,676. But at the moment at 1,727, approaching, or at least on the lower end of the Ichimoku cloud on the H1 time frame. Silver, similar situation, actually breaking through at the moment, testing the lower limit of the Ichimoku cloud. We see $25, 1, 2, 3. Similar situation, but with the drop off that was actually quite bigger. Let's take a look at oil, which is the main event, as I mentioned. So let's take it actually back on the hourly chart, rather than the 4-hour. You see this upward gap as well. After reaching the low of around $60, Brent managed to rebound to 64, then pull back with a gap. And then after this recent news, again, of the Suez Canal, along with some other news, we saw this upward move, and now, in fact, managed to break above the Ichimoku cloud on the H1. And it is testing the upper limit along with this purple line, which you'll see is the 100 SMA. Now, when it comes to this, obviously we have to keep an eye on for fundamental news and next week's inventory report. WTI, similar situation, you'll see here, actually managing to rebound twice off almost the exact same spot. So first time pullback about 6-7%, and then an upward move about 6%, and then we saw a pullback of around similar size, and then now attempting to recover once again and return above $60, which has been a key level for WTI. Let's take a look now at Bitcoin real quick, just to take a look at the cryptocurrency market. We see around 52,000, as I mentioned. While if we take a look at traditional currencies, mixed performance for the USD and the euro, and in fact the pound is slightly more positive, but you see mixed performance because it's trading on both sides. These currencies are better. The US dollar is better against these currencies, while it is worse against these currencies, and so on. But if we take a look at the pairs, we'll see that pound USD managed to rebound yesterday after reaching a low of 136.7, so the lowest level in quite some time, as you can see here. It's the lowest level since the beginning of February. And we saw that it actually managed to rebound and is now testing this area around 137.7 after the pair gained quite a little bit. This is also due to, as I said, the dollar weakening slightly, and the pound is actually stronger. When it comes to Euro USD, which with the overlaid chart of the USD index, you can see that as the USD index goes up, we are seeing a pullback of the Euro USD pair. So at the moment, 117.7, so it's still below 118, but it actually is testing that level right now as we speak, almost and the cross between the two EMAs. So this level is going to be important to keep an eye on, but it remains to be seen because, as you can see, dollar is actually gaining a little bit more strength while the euro is pulling back slightly. And we're waiting for comments from the ECB as well. And so that's all for today. Thank you very much for paying attention. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. My name is Walid Koudmani, Market Analyst for XTB. Thank you, good luck with your trading, and I'll see you next week.